Artificial intelligence. It's like anything artificial. You have an artificial sheep, it's made out of plaster, sits out in the field. People might think it's a sheep, but it's not a sheep. There's no sheep in there, it's just plaster. A toaster. It looks like the toaster knows when it's time that the toast is made, and it pops up. In fact, the toaster doesn't know that. The toaster doesn't know anything. The toaster just reaches a certain temperature, the bimetal trips a sear, and the toast pops up. No intelligence. This thing does a lot of nifty stuff. It was a miracle in 1970, one of these things. No intelligence. It's a completely deductive system. It's deterministic in that it does exactly, well, except if it's broken, it does what it's told. It executes instructions. Your computer executes instructions too. This book is about instructions in assembly language, which is the nearest thing to machine language that humans normally use, because machine language is like really machine language is just like random binary junk is what it looks like to you. Assembler, the instructions have little things that they call mnemonics. So I'm going to show you some of those. This is, well, oh, okay. This is add. So there you've got your mnemonic for add. These are the flags, which is a register that's broken up into things like overflow and stuff like that, to tell you the results of your instruction of things that have happened. And then these down here are examples of the code and stuff about t-states, which you really don't care about. You can tell the difference between different processors. Like there's things that you can do on 286 that you can't on a 386 that you can't do on a 286. So you have to know which processor you're writing for, and you don't care about that either. Or let me put it this way: if you really do care about it, I could make you a video sort of explaining more about assembler, but I don't think anybody cares anymore. Now, each of these instructions is a part of the program. The program is, actually, of course, there's a lot of loops, but basically the program is just a list of instructions. Do this, do that, do that, do the other thing. With a pen and a piece of paper, you could write down the machine state at the time of an instruction, which would be, you know, what's in all the registers and the flags and all that kind of stuff. And then you could take the next instruction and see what it does, and then you could write up the machine stage at the end of that instruction. And the people at Intel actually had to write the code that says, how do we do these instructions? So each instruction really is a whole computer program unto itself, where current flows into these gates. Like this is an AND gate, this is a NOT gate, this is an OR gate, this is a NOT OR gate, or a NOT AND gate, or blah, all this kind of stuff. And those are all, there's all a bunch of transistors, and there's millions of them on the chip. Okay, but you could actually trace through, you could show, and or at least, you know, the guys at Intel, they could show you why the machine state is exactly what it is at a certain point, and they could tell you what it's going to do next, for sure. They couldn't tell you what the whole program was going to do, because nobody lives long enough to go through all that stuff. Okay, but we don't need to, because we have computers. A computer is not a brain. A computer is just a toaster. It cooks the bread, that's all. Well, it has more functions than a regular toaster. If you move up to a toaster oven, that's got a thing for broil from the top or oven from the bottom, got a timer, got a thermostat, or at least it might have those things, depending on the toaster oven. The thing is that there is no thinking involved in these things. Merely the carrying out of an instruction. Just like if you gave me a bunch of numbers to add up, and I did it with the calculator, and then you say, hey, is there a better way than all this sitting here with the keys? And I'll say, yeah, sure, we got a spreadsheet. We can tell the computer to put this all up on a screen, and then I can make 1,000 copies of this formula right here, put all the data in here, and spit it out over there. But it's not doing anything but what this does. Just does it faster and easier. Now, I love the Terminator movies and Skynet becoming self-aware and the war between man and the machines, which really, you know, it's science fiction. It couldn't have happened. It couldn't happen that way because you would need, obviously, you know, you fight a tank with a tank, and you know that if you went and sat down at a computer and played a tank battle game at difficulty level 10, you know, that it would just be like you'd go, you're dead. And you'd say, well, who got me? Yeah, this is difficulty level 10, you know, there's only, you know, 3 or 4 high school kids in the world that can play at this level. And you ain't one of them. It's kind of like playing chess against Boris Spassky, you know, checkmate. So the computers are good for that. But, and robots are really cool. You know what Asimov said, that Isaac Asimov, the science fiction writer, that he had the first law of robotics, which is that robots aren't allowed to hurt humans. And then he goes on from there. Let me tell you. The first law of robotics? No. The first robot was a guided missile. That's just the way people are. We're more interested in having a really good weapon than anything else. And it's not entirely stupid. It gets stupid, but it, you know, having the most firepower on the block does count for something. When we talk about these computers, though, there's a basic thing. What does the computer want while it's sitting here? Nothing. It doesn't want to be turned on. It doesn't want to be turned off. It doesn't care. You can walk up to the computer and say, I'm going to smash you to pieces. Okay. If you had a really sophisticated robot like the Terminator, you could say, go destroy yourself. The Terminator doesn't care. It has no sense of self-preservation. It is not an animal. It doesn't think even as much as an amoeba thinks. It doesn't think at all. And that's why computers are never going to become self-aware. And they are never going to think. And no matter how complex they get, what they do is calculating, and you can predict what their calculation, the results of their calculations, by whichever means is the easiest way to predict it. You can use a different computer. You can take one computer and you can make it create an imaginary computer of another thing and run the source code on this emulated computer that actually doesn't even exist, this virtual machine. And they do that. And you can run your virtual machine. You can take a processor and run a program like Soft Ice, in-circuit emulator, create a virtual machine that's identical to the real machine, but is not the real machine. And then you can run a program on it, and when it crashes, you just bring up Soft Ice, and you go back and you can go right back and look at the instruction where it crashed and say, oh yeah, that's right, you can't do that. So that's where the bug is. The computer doesn't think, the real computer doesn't think any more than that virtual computer thinks. You can go on to any number of different platforms and you could make another virtual computer and it would not be able to think. Computers cannot take over the world. They don't even want to. They don't want anything. They just do what they're told. Artificial intelligence is artificial. It's an illusion like the sheep. It is not now and will never be real intelligence.